Hello, Masters. So we are continuing with fractions, and right now we're going to be talking about converting improper fractions to mixed numbers. And that's going to be page 44. But first, we are going to look at our study guide. Okay, there's two forms of, I'll zoom in more. There's two forms of converting. When you start with a mixed number and you go to an improper fraction. Okay, you multiply the denominator and the whole number. So this is our denominator. If we have 3, so we started with 3 2/5. Just remind yourself, whole number, numerator, denominator. Those little think tracks can just constantly reinforce what you know. So you multiply the denominator times the whole number. Now, I have the kids write, looks like a snowflake symbol and an add symbol right away. That's just to remind yourself, you multiply those together. When you get to algebra, there's different ways that you can show multiplication. And one of them is kind of the star or the asterisk. So we have them write them, you multiply that, so 5 times 3 is 15. Whatever your product is, so add that product to the numerator. Whatever your product is of this, you add to your numerator. So 15 plus 2 is 17. So our conversion is 17/5. Okay. You write the new numerator over the same denominator. So our new numerator is when we multiply and we add, but the denominator carries over. Here's a little saying that the class uses. Snow falls to the ground, then you add. Okay, that's why it looks like a snowflake, and then you add. So snow falls to the ground, you multiply those two together, then you add. Whatever your product is, you add that to your numerator. Okay. Now we go to the other side. When we want to flip it back, okay, you divide the denominator into the numerator. My class always says D into N. That has to stick in your brain. When you see an improper fraction, an improper means the numerator is larger than the denominator. So the denominator means how many parts make up a whole. So technically, you can't have more than 17 parts if only 5 make up your whole. So if I have a pack of cookies and the store says, hey, there's 5 cookies in this pack, but then you open it and there's 17. Well, that's a big bonus. However, that's a big mistake on the cookie company, right? So technically you can't count more parts than make up a whole. But there is a reason for improper fractions, especially when we get to dividing and multiplying fractions. So you have your improper fraction. You have D into N, which means my denominator is on the outside. My numerator is on the inside. If you want to know that vocabulary, the denominator becomes your divisor. Your numerator becomes your dividend. It's a one-step multiplication problem, or a one-step division problem. You're always going to have a remainder. Okay. I tell my kids that you start at the top of the mountain. This is how many whole equal groups you can make. That becomes your whole number. Okay, so this is my start. That's my whole number. I go down. This is my numerator because this is what's left over. This is what I'm counting. And then the denominator stays the same. And that stays the same there. So denominator is a 5. My divisor is a 5. My denominator stays a 5. And those are the two steps. Okay, before we go to page 44 in the book, let's look at just a practice page. I'll just do a couple on each of these. Okay, I'm going to look at the top here. Okay, so simplifying improper fractions and converting mixed numbers. Change the following mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, so again, we see our mixed number, 4 3/7. What's that saying I'd like you to remember? Snow falls to the ground, and then you add. write that for each of them, either as you go, or just go ahead and do it right now. Now this page is not in your book, so you might want to stop for a moment and copy down these numbers. So copy down 4 and 3/7, 3 and 2/8, 6 and 7/9, 1 and 4/12, 10 and a half, 2 and 8/12, 9 and 5/4, 7 and 3/10, 12 and 2/3, 8 and 10/11. And we're changing them from mixed numbers to improper fractions. So you multiply the numerator times, or the denominator times the whole number. So 7 times 4 is 28. That's my product. That is what I add to my numerator. 28 plus 3 is 31. I have 31/7. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 plus 2, 26/8. 9 times 6, 54. 54 plus 7 is 61/9. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16 over 12. We don't have to simplify these because they're supposed to be improper. So they might as well be not simplified. 10 times 2 is 20. 20 plus 1, 21/2. Notice in all of these, the denominator stays the same. Okay, you work these out, and I'm just going to write the answer in. Make sure you're reminding yourself, snow falls to the ground, and then you add. That means you multiply these together. Whatever your product is, that's what you add to your numerator. Make sure you're solving these. I'm just writing the correct answer in. Okay, now for the bottom, we're going to go the opposite. Simplify by making the following improper fractions a mixed number. Reduce to lowest terms if possible. Okay, so when you see reduce and lowest terms, you have to simplify. And when you simplify, you have to think of the greatest common factor. If you're not sure what greatest common factor means, go back and watch the greatest common factor video. So for each of these, you have to remember denominator goes into numerator. D into N, that's your think track. The snow falls to the ground and then you add is your think track for the front, top. When you convert the other way, you have to think D into N. Okay. So 4 into 23. How many times can 4 go into 23 without going over? And it is going to be 5. 23. So my whole amount is 5. My numerator, what I'm left counting, what's left over, is 3. And my denominator stays the same. So it's 5 3/4. This is in smallest terms, so I don't need to simplify with the GCF. If this one-step division is throwing you off, I'm just using the steps to division. Dad, mom, sister, brother, Rover. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And we're never going to have a repeat. We're going to have a remainder. And our remainder will be there. If the division is throwing you off, go back and watch the video on long division. It was about the 4th video that I completed. Okay, D into N. So the denominator is on the outside and the numerator is on the inside. Now I would suggest having scrap paper with you so that you can complete this without being crushed. How many times can 6 go into 14 without going over? First of all, 6 can't go into 1. 2 times. I'm going to subtract the 12, make it a 2. My whole number's on top. That's how many equal groups I can make. I can make 2 equal groups. I'll have 2 left over, and then my denominator stays the same. Now, I can simplify with the GCF on this one. Between a 2 and a 6, I know 2 will be my greatest common factor. So my whole number stays the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. My answer is 2 1/3. I'll show you one more answer or work through, and then I'll just show you the answer key. Okay? Because I'll have a little bit more room, let me skip to 4. 2 into 35. 2 can go into 3 one time. Subtract. I get a 1. Bring down my 15. That's my new dividend. How many times can 2 go into 15 without going over? And that's 7. 7 times 2 is 14. I have 1 left over. So my whole number is 17. I travel down. What am I counting? My remainder of 1. And my denominator stays the same. 17 1/2. Okay, pause the video, work through the rest of there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 problems for practice, and I will show you the answer key. There you go. All right. Okay. So now let me show you the page 44 in your booklet. Okay, this is your page 44. Now, they only in the packet there was only convert improper to mixed number. Okay, they didn't have a separate page of converting improper fractions to mixed numbers, but there's plenty of that practice throughout the other fraction pages. So just keep in mind what we do when there's an improper fraction. Your think track is D into N. Okay, so 8 into 17. How many times can 8 go into 17 without going over? That's 2. That's 1. My whole number is 2. What am I counting? And my denominator is the same, 2 1/8. Okay, I'm going to do one more for you. We'll go over here. 7 into 15. How many times can 7 go into 15 without going over? That's 2. My whole number is 2. My leftover or my numerator is 1. And my denominator stays the same, 2 1/7. So that is, finish the rest of the page, and then I will show you the answer key. Okay, ready? Here we go. Here's the answer key to the top. Just make sure you take these notes. Just reminds exactly D into N, what we do, and it explains our answer. And that is how you convert fractions from improper to mixed numbers or mixed numbers to improper.